Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, September 15th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next couple of days, we will continue to see showers and thunderstorms. However, they will continue moving eastward. Today mainly be focused over the eastern half of the Great Basin, and the area in dark green is where we'll see our most widespread showers and thunderstorms and wetting rains. In the lighter green, activity will be a little bit more isolated, but we will also have some pretty gusty northwest winds behind the cold front that's moving through, especially over southern Idaho into northern and northeast Nevada. However, next week, after a couple days of warming, we will have a stronger area of low pressure move through the Great Basin with very cold temperatures, more wetting rains, especially for northern areas, and stronger winds. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen a very good amount of lightning, especially most abundant over the southern half of the Great Basin, and a little bit more scattered as you move further north. But wetting rains really in any areas where we saw these thunderstorms. You can see the map on the left showing these wetting rains where the areas in bright green are over a half or 3/4 of an inch of precipitation, where many other areas saw between a quarter and a half inch. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen light to moderate initial attack across the Great Basin, with still a few new large fires. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen precipitation in the last week mainly concentrated over the southern half of the Great Basin. However, again, as in this does not encompass what we saw last night, we did see wetting rains further north. And over the last 2 weeks, above normal precipitation continued mainly over the southern half of the area, but still was below normal for the time of year for areas up north. Looking at our current ERCs, they have been on the downward trend in all areas of the Great Basin as this moisture and cooler temperatures have been moving through. We still have some areas in the central Idaho mountains that have not seen quite as much precipitation with ERCs above the 80th percentile, but these are still quite a bit lower than what they were a week ago. Looking at our fuel maps, you can see the sharp decline in all areas of the Great Basin, even over central Idaho, where ERCs are now well below records and in most areas below normal. However, they're still slightly above normal over the central Idaho mountains, but again, we will see a colder system moving in next week, and this will drop all areas to well below normal. 10-hour fuel moisture has also changed quite a bit with the moisture moving in. You can see most significantly the sharp decline over Utah and parts of Idaho that saw those more significant wetting rains. Areas over western Nevada, the 10-hour fuel moisture has come up a little bit since we've seen some drier weather over the last 24 hours. 100-hour fuel moisture is still in the 6th to 15th percentile across the Great Basin. The satellite loop from this morning shows this deep trough of low pressure over the west, which will continue moving eastward. With the most significant moisture today, you can see the cloud cover and still some ongoing showers and thunderstorms this morning over the eastern half of the Great Basin. As you can see, as that trough swings eastward, winds will shift to the northwest over the western and northern areas and will be quite gusty today across Idaho and northern Nevada. However, drier air is pushing in from the west, which will be relatively short-lived. Again, looking at the weather pattern for today, you can see that trough and how by this afternoon it moves eastward with the more significant areas of moisture over the eastern half of the basin, and our significant fire potential is low to moderate across the area. There still are a few drier pockets over northwest and northern Nevada into southwest Idaho that have not seen as much rainfall as areas east and south. However, fire potential has decreased. Looking at the showers and thunderstorms expected for today, again mainly by this afternoon over the eastern half of the area. However, still this morning we'll see some activity a little bit further west. However, the main story will be the increase in winds and the shift in direction with northwest to north winds over much of Idaho into northern Nevada, with gusts between 30 and 40 miles per hour in many locations. Also, we still have some prefrontal winds over southeast Utah, with more southwest winds gusting around 30 miles per hour. And then we will continue to see those gusty outflow winds near our thunderstorms. As we move into Saturday, we see drier air moving in across the Great Basin, still a little bit of moisture lingering across the northwest into Idaho, but for the most part, much less activity across the Great Basin weather-wise with low to moderate fire potential. You can see the relative humidity has now decreased back into the teens over the southern half of the Great Basin, but still remains somewhat elevated in the higher terrain of Idaho. However, our wind pattern, winds are much weaker on Saturday than they will be today. However, still over western Wyoming, we'll see those breezy northwest winds with the stronger winds further east. Going into Sunday, we have another system starting to drop south off the Gulf of Alaska, and this will push some shower activity potentially into parts of northern Idaho, and we even may see a few isolated thunderstorms over parts of Utah as well as moisture continues to linger. Looking at the relative humidity, you can see the driest spots are generally southwest Idaho into western and northern Nevada, so we will see our finer fuels especially start to dry out over the weekend. Winds ahead of this next area of low pressure will start to increase, with southwest to west winds gusting generally between 20 and 30 miles per hour. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation for the next 3 days, generally today is where we'll see most of that chance of wetting rains and accumulating precipitation over the eastern half of the basin. As we go into next week, we have a much colder area of low pressure dropping south. This is a very cold area of low pressure for the time of year, so it will drop temperatures early next week to 15 to 20 degrees below normal. Also, it will bring additional moisture, especially to the northern half of the Great Basin starting on Monday, especially across Idaho is where we'll see those colder temperatures and wetting rains initially. Still low fire potential, and we will see the fire potential decrease as this system moves through. However, initially, again, ahead of this area of low pressure, winds will be increasing across the Great Basin as this low approaches. The low will swing eastward across the northern Rockies, keeping some precipitation in the far north with drier and breezy conditions in the far south. However, temperatures around the Great Basin will decrease, with the coldest temperatures up across Idaho, where highs may only reach the 50s in the lower elevations. Also, snow levels will be dropping to 6,000 to 7,000 feet, so we will also see high elevation snowfall for the first time this year. As we move into Wednesday, we still have low pressure dominating the west, keeping temperatures cool, breezy winds, and precipitation mainly focused in the north. As we go towards the latter portion of the week, another area of low pressure swings around the main low, cooling temperatures even in the south and pushing that moisture further south across the Great Basin as we get towards Wednesday and Thursday. And as you can see, our significant fire potential decreases in all areas. The overall forecast amount of precipitation for the next 7 days includes what we'll see today, but also you can see additional precipitation as we move with that next system next week. The 8 to 14 day outlook takes us into the very end of September, where we'll continue with those cool temperatures at least through most of the month with above normal precipitation in the north. However, right now the models are still pointing at some period of warm and drier weather towards the early part of October. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.